Okay, for the first time, welcome Katherine Hauser to Open Sources Guelph. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you for having me.
Let's get right into it. One of the things, last week at council, I think it was last week at council, this pertains to your neck of the woods in Ward 6, the Niska Waterfowl Park. One of the things I struggle with because um, my Guelph history goes back only like 20 some odd years. Um, and that the history of that particular area is like it closed like before I moved here, so I don't have firsthand experience with it. But in terms of how you've had to handle it and all the history with it, and that dates back to '70s, and Norm Jerry had this agreement with this person and the Ontario government and GRCA, and it was 19 6. How have you been trying to manage just wrapping your head around a file that has history beyond some of us have been alive, frankly.
Yeah. When I first moved to Guelph, the Waterfowl Park was very much a thing, was still around. So I think with all of the history as well, there's so many feelings, so much attachment to that area. Um, I know that it's technically been closed, but I mean, everybody walks there, everybody goes there. Um, yeah, it's temporary. Yeah, technically close, but very well used space, and people really would love to see that go back to being welcoming and being used. So there was a lot of history for me to catch up on, a lot. And then when I thought I was done reading, there was so much more. Um, the community groups themselves sent so much information as well, to just to know where to go to find the things. So that was actually really, really helpful for me. Finding all of the old council documents and things that happened in meetings and the GRCA meetings. Like there was a lot of background for anyone to catch up on, I think. I mean, Kathy, I think, has been there a long time, so I think she knows a lot of it. So that was also helpful in my direction. Um,
You mean Ward 5 Councillor Kathy Downer, in case people are, yeah.
yeah, yeah, like she has so much history, like of just where to go find things, and like actual conversations that she had, 25 years ago. So it's actually pretty an amazing wealth of information, um, and direction. So I know that she wasn't there for that meeting, but I haven't talked to her, so I would assume she'll be happy with the outcome. But I think all of council was very much united on what we wanted to see. There was a lot of trepidation on upsetting, um, kind of the discussions that were being had regarding the other two parcels,
Mm,
and maybe those three parcels never should have been separated, but the fact is that they are, and you have to look at them the way they are. You can't just go back and be like, put them back together, because that's not how it really works. um, and believe me, like, there was so much conversations that we can't talk about because they're all like financial and legal and all of those things. So um, I mean, if we could have negotiated for the three parcels all together, we definitely would have, but that one was separated, for a reason. So I was absolutely thrilled when we were finally allowed to make the first announcement that we were getting the two parcels, for a relatively, pretty good fee. But I think what it's 700,000, but 350 is coming back to us anyways to
mm.
work, and which is, I mean, that's a pretty good deal for Guelph. And I know that money was spent before, so we shouldn't be spending money again. But considering the value of that land, that's a very, very reasonable um, outcome. I think the price was right. Let's put it that way,
The
for
pr-
sure.
the price is right. You were kind of getting at something there that I think was in the air at the meeting, which is a lot of this has taken place in not necessarily closed meeting rooms. Um, well, they were closed meeting rooms, but not necessarily like you know cloak rooms and where there's cloak and dagger stuff happening. This is the nature of like real estate negotiations and legal stuff. But I wonder if there's like a medium somewhere because there was no report attached to this specific item at the meeting. And I understand that this was kind of like Mayor Guthrie's initiative, and so staff doesn't typically write reports for stuff that is like a council-led initiative. But is there any way the public can be given that background at some point? Not necessarily the solicitor and the negotiation stuff, but like some of the access to that history you're talking about. Because I know from my Googling, um, because a lot of this stuff is pre-internet. It's very hard to sort of as a member of the public to sort of access these things. Is there has there been any talk about trying to, I guess, walk the public through those concerns that they have about quote unquote backroom deals?
Um, I mean, when the report does come in June or July, when that does come, we might see some of that information coming forward. Um, I would say like staff is going to go and really look at all of the information. So I would think it'll be a fulsome report. I would hope that a lot of those questions would be responded to in that for sure. Um, I think that's probably reasonable to assume that we'll get some openness.
Okay.
I can't promise that, but I would hope. I think because you have the full information as to why if they're going to recommend it to go back to open spaces, they have to have a pretty good reason why that would be. Because it is, I mean, it is a contentious, very contentious issue, but
Hmm.
like I think wants it to stay. Um, I mean, it's a working farmer's field right now, but if it could go back, to nature's way it's intended to be used, that would be lovely. I'm not going to say it's not like you houses could go there, but it
Mm.
isn't. That was one of the misconceptions is that it's protected wetland, but it's really not. It was used for the floodplains, but it wasn't. So there is a lot of misinformation, disinformation going around as well. So that's a bit confusing for the public because they'll hear like one side and then we hear the exact opposite. But
Right.
there's like the truth somewhere. Um, the bottom line is we'd like it to stay as conservation land, and I think the council's pretty, but the vote was unanimous, wasn't it? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I think we're all on the same page that that's how we would like to see this go.
To that end, I have been down there a couple of times. Although it is hard to get there on the bus,
Yeah,
because the bus does not go past that part of Niska Road. So, but it makes me think. There's a lot of lofty talk about like it's conservation space, open space, it being accessible to the public. But there's levels of accessibility too, and I think part of accessibility is being able to reach it. And even if you do have a car, you can park by the side of the road and wander in there on foot. Uh, but there's some practicalities there too, and I'm curious about how if there's been any discussion in the process of like, yeah, in making it like a destination for people looking for, great outdoor open spaces in the city, how do we get people out there on, I mean, to be frank, the outskirts of town where there's not as much, infrastructural servicing.
right. I don't think that conversation has come up. Um, I do think that if it becomes, something that we all want it to become, like have it a destination, then I think they would have to put in some sort of like a bus route through there. Actually, I think this is ringing bells. There is a request for more busing out that way.
Mm.
Don't know when that will maybe come forward. Um, I don't think it's not in this year's budget, but I do know that it's on the horizon. So maybe that would coincide um, going down. But yeah, definitely something to mention. If you're going to build a field, you better or a trail or park destination, you better have a way to get there.
Yeah. No,
Put
for
that on.
sure. Yeah. No, for sure. It just I think if you haven't been sort of swimming in this issue for years, and I think maybe this is a fault of some of the activists too. It's like the focus is on saving it. And maybe the next thing is like how do we enjoy it?
Yeah.
and that's another separate conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Well, maybe that can come forward when we have the report back in well, Q2. So
Q2, yeah,
probably June.
yeah.
I know there was a big April, but April's like it feels right on the corner. So that was a bit like only 2 months now, but so 4 I think is realistic from what I understand. So that's okay.
I mean, yeah, there were the for people who didn't see the meeting, there were a couple of activists who were saying or advocates saying they wanted it to get it done by April 15th, which that is a Monday if I or a Sunday if I remember correctly. So if it was that month's planning meeting, I think that would be the Tuesday before, so the 10th, April the 10th, which
Mm,
the report for that would have to come out the last Thursday of March. So just for people who know, it's staff have to have their reports in earlier than that. So we're probably not going to get stuff done in a month and a half when it comes to matters of this precise planning. Speaking of precise planning, I did want to address a bit about the OR lands, um, because I know you asked the question too, and I'm still not 100% sure if I know the answer. But I'll phrase it this way. I know the idea was like the HCD, the Heritage Conservation District Planning Guidelines, had stuff about residential development on the land, and the staff argument was that has to be in there in case there is uh, because it's provincial property, the province could sell it and attach an MZO, a ministerial zoning order, which could basically prescribe they could do anything. But I'm still confused. How does a ministerial zoning order override everything except a heritage conservation district plan?
so I know it was not a thing either. All the legalese and conversations as well. And I had to go back again for the history and everything. Basically, if the province was going to use it for province purposes, they can do whatever they want. If they
Okay,
someone else, then they have to abide by the guidelines that are put in place. So not having guidelines regarding residential opens it up. So if because it wasn't, and so this is the fine line that we did end up going down. Um, what staff was really recommending is that we keep residential in there so that if something happens, we have guidelines about what is allowed, what isn't allowed, what needs to be kept heritage wise, and where it can be. Um, Taking that out, so now there's no guidelines for the heritage protections that could have been attached to residential if it were to happen. There was a lot of what ifs, and at the end of the day, if the province wants to do what the province wants to do, it's going to do it anyway.
sure.
Uh, so that was the kind of thing. There was a lot of we heard from a lot of delegations that really, I think the idea in people's heads are that $1 million mansions are going to go around those lakes,
Right.
which disastrous for people who want to enjoy that space, which is, very, very important. Those are heritage lands that everyone has enjoyed forever. So to have them be someone's backyard all of a sudden would be devastating. And I think that's where people were like emotionally coming from.
Right.
But when you looked at it, and Councillor Caton brought up the amended motion, the area where the housing would be even remotely allowed is not in a nice part of the area. Um, Leaving it to like mixed use and like commercial, that would be way better suited to having residential there, because she made a very good point that the housing that might be allowed, they're not going to be $1 million mansions. They're going to be affordable homes. That's where the Cargill is. That's where, the waste depot is.
Yeah.
So
Sandwiched
it not,
between those 2 points of those two landmarks.
yeah, yeah.
The provincial purposes is interesting because I think a lot of people have heard that, what if, the Ontario government approves a new hospital, and they own the land, so that's like an immediate cost saver. But provincial purposes could also mean, social housing too. It could be like provincially directed social housing. And just when you said provincial purposes, that's kind of what my mind went to is that, um, that's kind of the delta is the province could decide you're going to build some affordable housing here, And I guess that's where Councillor Caton also came up with their idea as well, is that
Yeah.
that this is like the that's how everything coalesces in here.
Yeah. No, and I think so too. Um, it was a good point that was brought up. And I don't think I usually like to be very, very well prepared. So
Mm,
bringing that kind of, that's why I asked that question. I really wanted to hammer it home, not only for ourselves, but for the people that were there. Um, to get that out of our heads of like, oh, the residential won't be where you think it's going to be, and it's not going to be the type of residential that it could be. So I did at that point want to take that away. I mean, at the end of the day, province is going to do what a province wants to do, but
right.
I guess having it out, um, I went into the meeting completely prepared to leave it in and have it be there as protection. But then during the course of the conversation, I definitely went to the whole other side, and I think everybody was okay with it. It eventually passed, was put in there, and it passed unanimously as well. So
Yeah.
uh, everybody came to the.
No, for sure. And Brian Scarrett's essentially called it like, complying in advance.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
idea of putting residential in there. And I understand, being a former scout, I understand being prepared. But I think, believe it or not, I was a scout, but be, but being prepared is one thing, but I think what people wanted, and I think what a lot of on council wanted is like to be very strong in the intent is like the way that property is right now, the things that the people enjoy that property. It's not that there isn't room for something else, but people want to be able to walk along the pond. People want to be able to walk along the amphitheater or along the ridge of the amphitheater. Like there are things to enjoy, and people don't want to lose those. And just putting a mention of residential in there feels like we're open to it in a way that it doesn't feel like we're being prepared. It feels like we're being open to possibilities. I guess it's a way
yeah,
of
and
looking at it.
yeah, and that was how everybody really saw that. Yeah, that yeah, giving up before it's even a question was brought up a lot. So, and I did hear where that was coming from. We were just getting the coaching from staff about the legal parameters
Right.
and um, I totally understood both sides, so I was going with the legal part. But then, I mean, yeah, you're allowed to change your mind. That's the
You're allowed to change your mind. No, but I mean, there are multiple levels to this that people don't get. Sorry, go ahead.
but I'm comfortable with the outcome. Very
Yeah,
comfortable with the way it went. So
yeah.
I good. We'll see what happens down the road. I'd love to see that area used. You know, like open it up. Like these are two great, amazing things that just happened. So all of this green space, if we can, you know, harness it and capture it and use it for like people were talking about and I've never heard of this before, prescriptions
Hmm.
going out in nature
Yeah.
and beautiful places to be able to do that. I've never heard that. My daughter has many times said go touch grass when she's talking about things, but I didn't realize that that was actually something people were being told to go do. So that's amazing. And
It's a remedy, not just a snarky response.
yeah,
Speaking of snark, and there was a lot of this online about council remuneration. Um, I know that this is something nobody's comfortable talking about, their own pay. When you go into a job interview and they ask you how much are you, what kind of salary and benefits are you expecting? It's a terribly awkward question. But in the case of council, the decision was made like to have the same pay this or the next term as what is that with the exception of the cost of living increase, which is something that's mandated. But in terms of like how this should be handled, I think there's a big question there. And being like the newest member of council and given your experience so far, is the compensation equal, just in your point of view, is the compensation equal to the work you've been doing the last how many months? 7, 8 months?
six, I think
And
six.
then six, and then on top of that, how would you like your compensation to be determined? Like, is it a decision of council staff, or should we bring back that committee group?
I think that the committee group is good in theory, but that committee group became very politicized. So
Mm,
it work. I don't know all of that history. I did read it all, but I know there was some history there, and that's why it was decided to put it just to staff. Um, but that didn't work either because I don't think anyone should be like who sets their own pay.
right.
And I you're not setting your own pay. It's for the next, the next group or whatever. I do understand that. Um, I think it's just a really awkward and really political thing that gets attention for the wrong reasons. I did vote for the the pay raise
Mhm.
coming in, so I don't make what everybody else makes. I started at the scale from what they started at, right? So they got the bumps. I'm just at the base. Um, I'm not complaining about that per se, but like okay, so I've always worked 80 to 90 hours a week. So this is not unusual for me. And it's kind of nice that it's one specific job that I can work on instead of going to two different other part-time jobs.
Right.
So I've been able to balance it a lot, and I can like contribute more to the communities on the weekends, whereas I used to work every Saturday, Sunday. Um,
Mm.
and so in that respect, it's also physically less demanding than my other part-time jobs. So it's that's nice. I can, although I sit too much now, but uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I do reading. There's so much reading. But to say it's a part-time job, and we learned that the Municipal Act doesn't even specify how many hours or if it's part-time. I know that there are people that definitely do it as a part-time job.
Mm.
Uh, I guess you would say it's a part-time job for me because I have a full-time job.
Right.
But I only work 35 hours a week at that job. I would say I do more for this one. I'm paid
Interesting.
substantially more at the other one. I don't think this to be a paid full time position. I think people would lose their minds uh,
Yes.
for how much it would entail. But if it, like if you were to take away my full time job, I couldn't survive.
Right.
With like I need both. Um, I think it's actually pretty close. It will come out pretty close to making the same amount at this point as I did at the other jobs. Being a trustee, and then I do wedding and event serving on weekends. Um, so, I mean, if you consider, being a bartender and a server is comparable to counselor,
Right.
one would give you that level of respect or that level of expectation. But why are you paying them the same? You know,
Yeah.
so that's a real thing. So it really does eliminate people that you know you do want to be represented. I think I bring a lens that isn't necessarily around the horseshoe at this time. Um, the pay raise would have helped me a lot, I think, um, but I still wouldn't have been able to quit my other job.
Yeah.
So it's a wash for me, really, because I still really really want to do it, um, but it's not going to be as helpful, to my family, kind of thing,
Yeah.
to keep going without me being crazy maxed out.
No, for sure. And the economics of it is so important. I think we do underestimate how many people would be interested. I mean, even just like participating in politics as like an activist or an advocate, like caring deeply about affordability or like rent control or the use of public land, the time because people are working is such a, you know, that keeps people out of engagement too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I have appreciated being able to, um, I am able to do a lot more, and I connect with a lot more people than I would have because I never would have had. I mean, as a trustee, I was very much involved in my trustee things, but then when weekend events would happen, I couldn't participate.
Right.
So limited me a lot. So it is nice that I can do things in the community.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I do appreciate that part.
Well, for people who may not realize, we appreciate Councillor Hauser because she is recording this on the Family Day holiday, uh, when she did have some free time. So we appreciate that. We appreciate you. Thank you for stopping by Open Sources, and we look forward to having you again.
Well, thanks, Adam. Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.